Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Jasiri Network live podcast session. My name is Nancy Masila, and I'm the founder of Jasiri Network, a Pan African diaspora community of professionals. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Dennis Kevogo. Dennis Kevogo is the co founder and chief data and AI officer at Prescott Data, an AI and data company, and he's going to tell us what does a chief data and AI officer even mean. Dennis is a trained actuarial scientist who transitioned into data and AI and is currently pursuing his master's in applied artificial intelligence at Cranfield University in the UK. We'll be diving into his journey, AI's evolution, and what businesses and professionals need to know about the future of data and AI. Welcome to the live, Dennis. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you, Nancy. I'm joining you from Kenya,
Nice,
and
nice.
I'm happy to be here
Where
with
in
you.
Kenya?
Oh, in Kitale, Tanzania, currently. I'm home. I'm trying to, yeah, have some fun here.
Amazing, amazing. And as usual, in all our live sessions, we always start with a quick round fire of questions. So are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. If you had to explain AI to a 5-year-old in one sentence, how would you put it?
Wow, that's a good question. AI is a smart helper that is similar to a human being in reasoning and in thinking. That is it.
Okay, a smart helper. That's a
That
good
that.
one. Yeah.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Cool. Another question. What's one myth about AI you hear all the time that you'd like to debunk straight away?
Uh, right from the onset of artificial intelligence, let's say 10 years ago, when
Mm-hmm.
practically most AI products were being launched, everyone did say that AI is going to steal jobs. AI is going to displace so many people from their job places. That is such a myth. And I'm saying so because AI is not yet independently creative.
Mm-hmm.
It's still highly dependent on the human being to be able
Mm-hmm.
to actually do or carry out most of the tasks. Secondly, if you look at it practically, even in terms of people analytics and human resource, AI isn't sentient. And a human resource manager has to be sentient to also understand through the human experience that this is actually a good cultural fit in our company or not. That's what I
Okay.
would say. Yeah.
Okay. So we still have a bit of room before AI takes over.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome. Another question. If you could apply AI to solve any everyday African challenge right now, what would it be?
I think I'd look at it in terms of where we are today because there's a real problem in Africa. And I know you've had very many international organizations coming into the African market just to try help in terms of poverty. I know you know the SDGs. We have poverty, we have hunger, and so on and so forth. I think I look at it in terms of what can I do, or how can I use artificial intelligence to curb malnutrition, and more specifically, just ensuring that I can be able to optimize operations and distribution of food across Africa. I think I look at it in the most practical sense. What
Yeah.
is the most painful thing that is most Africans are facing today, and that should be nutrition.
Awesome. Yeah, going back to the basics and just using AI to sort of like solve those basic problems.
Yes,
Cool,
exactly.
cool. Another question. What's one surprising skill you got from actual science that still helps you today in AI?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Yeah, my BSc was in natural science, and I did do risk modeling. And when now I develop ML models, machine learning models, we have fraud detection. We have a number of predictive modeling algorithms that I'm able to develop just for prediction. So that is one very critical skill that I feel I carried from natural science. But now, on top of it, is with a skill of being able to use artificial intelligence for automation. So I feel like risk modeling is one thing I still have ingrained in me, right from what I did in my BSc in actual science. So that's a good one for me for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. No, I think people that did actual science, pure mathematics, engineering, they do have the skills needed for the foundational elements of AI. Because again, there's LLM, there's machine learning. There's so many underlying technical structures that are needed for AI for kind of like what consumers actually interact with. Maybe I should have done actuarial science because I did a lot of statistics when I was doing economics, and I'm just like, why? you know.
Actuarial is not statistics. Actuarial is not statistics. There's a
But we
very thick
shared a
line.
few lecturers actually with our statistics actuarial people. But anyway, I
Okay.
digress. My passion was in economics. So, yeah, hey,
Mm,
thank you. Last
fair enough.
question before we move on is, if AI were a movie character, which one best describes its current stage of development?
Wow. I'd say a curious child. So we are just at the onset of artificial general intelligence, and then we'll move on to artificial narrow intelligence, and then now move to super intelligence. So it's predicted maybe in 2065 we should be towards narrow intelligence. And general intelligence is can it be able to simulate what a normal human being can do? And then narrow intelligence can it be able to now independently carry out what a human being can do? And then super intelligence can it be better at what a human being can do and independently execute that? You're still a curious child. There is much more that needs to be done, even in terms of data labeling and understanding the different sets of data that we are supposed to use to drive predictive modeling, for example, artificial intelligence in its own sense, and many other practical use cases of artificial intelligence. Such a curious child. And that's why I'm normally very, let me say, reserved when it comes to regulation. Let's put in place structures to be able to regulate artificial intelligence that's going to be likely hazardous, but let's not curtail or let's not put caveats when it comes to innovation using artificial intelligence as it is now. So it's simply a curious child. That's what I would say.
Okay, so a long way to go.
A long way to go. Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. And that's it for the quick fire round. I think I'll just go on to LinkedIn and just reshare that we are live because again, a few people tend to forget we are live. So this is literally us being live. Yeah.
Mhm. So can you imagine if we could deploy agents just to remind them and to join the live sessions on their behalf and to share
Right?
with
That
them the
would be
different features?
awesome.
Exactly, and that's already happening. I believe you use Notion AI, maybe or
Uh-huh.
maybe not. And
Yeah.
there are many other tools, including Dromos, that we
Mm-hmm.
just launched today, that
Yeah,
can be able to really automate and be self-healing, do as many tasks and as possible
true.
autonomously and independently
True.
with little human intervention.
Yeah, no, I think AI honestly has been kind of like a game changer. And like you said, there are elements of people saying, oh, that some works that may be not any relevant anymore, but then there are also other jobs coming up because of AI, or people being more efficient with things and being even more productive and creative with AI. So I'm all for AI and I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And even what's more exciting for me is kind of like just bringing the conversation to everybody because sometimes the conversation around AI, machine learning can be kind of more technical than it needs to be. So I love talking about like the functional and practical reasons or ways of using AI. And
Artificial intelligence.
speaking of that, I want to taking you back to actual science again. I want to know, kind of like take us back to how this journey started. So you started in actual science, and now you're into like AI and data, and kind of like what drew you into AI? Why didn't you kind of stick and be like an actuarialist and actuarial scientist rather, and sort of like follow that path? Into more like financial modeling, whatnot. But you chose something else very different. And I think at the time that you started was fairly new to the general public. I think it was still going on, but like for the general public, I think it was still very, very new. I don't know if there's a bit of noise from your end. Sorry.
Mm, no, not sure. Maybe this.
There's a bit of static. I don't know if it's
Oh,
just
I think
me.
I'm not sure. Is it actually distracting? Is it too much?
Um, I think we can go on, but I
Oh,
just
okay.
needed to finish
I'll
that.
try to mute. I'll try to mute while you speak then.
Okay.
Yeah, if it helps. Okay, perfect. So maybe I can proceed. I take it back to my days in campus, I used to be a student leader. More specifically, I used to be the deputy president of the Actuarial Student Society of Kenya. So that means I used to be an actuarial enthusiast. I used to be like a champion for actuarial science and how indeed it's a new profession, it's an interesting profession, and it was just setting sail in Kenya. Maybe at that time we had about 30 to 34 actuaries. So again, you could see there's a lot of opportunity to really thrive in this particular industry. But then I used to be a very curious child and I used to travel a lot at that time, maybe between 20 to 23. I would move around very many African countries at that time doing a number of projects. But I saw that the common denominator was automation. That the common problem was actually, can we actually automate these tasks? And part of this automation would be, can we actually drive towards cost optimization? That is what really started drawing me towards artificial intelligence. And to be very specific, I think I did walk my journey with a number of mentors, and I will not maybe mention their name today, but they also helped me see towards my horizon. If let's say I'm in the actuarial profession for the next 20, 30 years, how would it look like in terms of the landscape for trying as many beautiful things in terms of technology as possible compared to artificial intelligence? That is where my conviction came, and I said, okay, fine. I think now I find something that really marries with my passion, with my vision to be able to be a key player when it comes to technology. And that's how I was driven to artificial intelligence. So while I was still in campus, my mentors would share with me some projects from the industry, and I would do some of these projects for some really big firms, locally and internationally. And then as I would travel, then I remember I did deploy a predictive modeling tool for a startup in Cairo, and I still have a good relationship with that CEO up to date. And a number of them again as I moved around different African countries. So that is how I grew my curiosity to really go towards artificial intelligence. And definitely, there is the aspect of where does the future lie. That is also something that really drew me towards it. And more specifically, there are a number of models like Prophet that are really being used within actuarial science. That is heavily backed by artificial intelligence. So that's I would say that's my journey into really being an enthusiast of artificial intelligence and now as strategies as well.
Okay, so it's sort of like evolved naturally as you kind of now practiced. Okay, I see. And
Exactly.
now you are with Prescott Data and as the Chief Data and AI Officer. What a long title. Um, Take us back to starting out Prescott Data and to where Prescott Data is right now. And I know there was mention of Drumos at some point, so maybe you might want to share with us what Drumos is, what you guys are working on. But yeah, very very keen to learn about how you got to Prescott Data and where you guys are at now.
Okay, that's amazing. Uh, there's this common phrase that a company is actually its founders. It's not the idea. The idea can exist, but if the company does not have an actual enthusiast, an actual somebody who is actually tied to the vision of the company, then it's as good as dead. Why I started with that is because I shared a long journey with my one of my co-founders. That's actually our founder, the CEO, Muyukani, right from high school, where we were part of the engineering, what we used to call science congress. I used to be the chair at that time. So we did a number of projects at that time, and we shared a lot of thoughts about what the future would look like. I mean, just curiosity. Nobody would really talk much about ML or deep learning or even artificial intelligence. It was pretty new. And I mean, the genesis of AI, by the way, is just linear regression. If you can't remember that particular
Oh, I
expression,
remember.
linear regression.
I
That is
told
the
I
genesis of
told you we
AI.
used to share lecturers.
Come on,
You
come
hold
on.
with the linear regression, stochastic, pure maths.
Mhm,
I'm just like, I just
mhm,
want to learn economics. Why are we
mhm,
doing
mhm.
that?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And the genesis of GPUs, graphical processing units, is actually matrix multiplication, and that comes from linear algebra. Okay, fine. Let's let that aside. So I started my journey with this particular gentleman, and then of course, post uni, post sorry, high school, we now went to the same uni, and then therein we met again one of our co-founders. Now that's our COO, that is Idel. And then now post campus, we also now met one of our co-founders as well, that is Sangalo, who is now our CTO, a very intelligent guy, and he has a medical background, and that's why you can see that Dromos, one of the verticals that we're addressing is actually healthcare and insurance, and that's why we also have somebody within that particular domain knowledge. So we started working the journey together. So all of among all of our co-founders, Uyukani has again consulted for multinational companies. Actually, made companies being acquired by over 100 million US dollars in valuation. Myself, I've worked for a number of companies as well, consulted for a number of companies globally, and like I've always said, coach a number of VPs of data globally as well. So through that process, that was our genesis, and we said, okay, fine. So what would happen if we then come up or actually build our own startup? And then what would it mean if we remain as competitive as, say, OpenAI? Okay, let's imagine we are the under-resourced Elon Musk. What can we be able to do so much within the African ecosystem? Okay, let's also imagine another scenario that the market size in Africa is quite shrinked and it's also hostile. We've been in the game for a while, I tell you for sure. What more can we be able to do and really push ourselves into? Again, now looking at it retrogressively, we have been able to work this journey together and build this particular, let me call it intelligent startup, employed over 14 engineers, solution engineers, AI engineers, software engineers. We've been able to occupy one of the most expensive offices around, and we've been able to really been in big and small rooms to be able to negotiate deals and to be able to really build as much as we can be able to build. And as we speak today, we are doing our soft launch of Dromos, which is an agentic AI tool for automation, more specifically for the verticals of insurance and healthcare. Those are the very first verticals that we are working with. But remember, agentic AI is purely horizontal. It can touch in any other industry, including logistics, supply chain, and so on and so forth. But that is where we have key pain points and really a good opportunity to be able to seize and use artificial intelligence for automation. That's how our journey has looked like. So it's more natural than just, okay, fine, we need to make money. Oh, wow, we are smart. Oh, wow. Then let's go into artificial intelligence. That's not really it.
Yeah, and they say a co-founder is like a wife. So you have to make sure you have like, shared values in terms of the work and the solution that you want to build and create. So it's lovely just hearing how everything kind of like came together very organically. People you've known in high school, people you've known in uni, people you've known while working, and then coming up together to be like, okay, I've seen this, in this particular place. I've seen this here, why don't you come together? And then you guys going in and hiring some of the best minds on the continent and being like, yes, we really believe in this. You want the engineers to come on board, and now being able to build this amazing intelligent startup, as you're calling it. And so you're doing all this, and then you decide, you know what? It's time for me to go to the UK. And if I hadn't done enough with actuarial science, I want to also do applied AI as a master as a Cranfield. How did that come about? And why was this decision very, why did you make sort of like this decision? Because again, some of the things that you do is very practical. Like you have to actually practice. It's not just about academics, right? And like some other fields.
Okay, awesome. Of course, as I mentioned, my career, I started as a data scientist and then I grew to become a data science manager. And then I've become a principal data science consultant for a number of companies, locally and globally. But what really drove me to doing my MSc, other than intellectual curiosity, is the fact that we had started Prescott organically and we said, okay, fine, we are going to be a revenue based company. We are not doing debts, we're not doing any equity, maybe grants. I mean, anybody can say yes to free lunch. So we said, okay,
It's
fine, maybe
never
that's a
free
path.
though, Dennis. Saying grant money, it's never free.
Okay, fine.
I don't want people to think grant money is free money because you and I know it's not free.
Okay, fine. In this sense, your M is my W. Okay, so it's a win-win situation. Your M is my W. So, so as part of now us moving away from revenue based model into fundraising, we noticed that our profiles were really quite important. Like I said, even YC and many of the VCs globally, and even angel investors, they're really interested in seeing who is the bearer of this particular vision. Are they going to move this company and take it to IPO? Are they going to actually give me an exit times 10 or something? So I was really intentional about now pursuing an MSc, an actual practical MSc, applied artificial intelligence, into seeing what is on the other end as compared to this particular end practically. And I'm glad that I've been part of developing curriculum or curricula for a number of universities locally in data science, really top university, I will not mention at this particular point in time. So that intellectual curiosity and making sure that I can be able to optimize my profile for the sake of this particular company really drove me into doing applied artificial intelligence. And also, other than that, it's also good to really expand your networks, travel as well, and build networks in London, such as the one I have here, through Nancy
With the
Masila,
Siri
and many
network.
more with
Yeah.
Jasiri networks, exactly. And
And we've gotten
then
a chance to work together several times as well.
several times, exactly. So that's how I've been drawn to actually doing an MSc in applied artificial intelligence.
Okay. Interesting. And part of your journey and sort of you talking about how you came to Prescott Data, you mentioned you've worked in various countries in Africa, worked with several you know companies as well, multi-global, and then being in the UK as well, you've done a couple of projects. I wanted to get your thoughts on sort of like the differences you've seen, how AI and data science are approached in the UK versus in Africa. Like where's the uptake, where's the biggest need, or where's the biggest application you've mentioned? I know with Prescott you've mentioned you guys are more into like healthcare. You've also mentioned insurance, but looking at the UK and also Africa, kind of like what are the differences you're seeing so far with AI and data science?
Um, that's a very practical question, and it draws me towards resource disparity. A founder in London and a founder in Delaware or San Francisco is not a founder in Kenya. Is not a founder in Kenya. However exceptional you are, is not a founder in Africa actually. And I'm glad that maybe we are part of the let's say, founders in this particular path of really seeing how we can be able to improve this funding ecosystem. I'm glad to be part of that family as it stands, or that community. So one thing I would say about resource disparity is that I met founders in London through a circle called Grafters. I was invited, an exclusive circle of founders. So again, I get to interact with founders who are actually deploying artificial intelligence tools for claims processing within the NHS, claims processing and fraud detection within the NHS. So on the onset, there are companies who are just 1 year old. They've been able to raise as much as £7 million. You can already you can already tell what you can already see where I'm headed to. So I'm simply saying it's not that that idea or their idea is super noble. It's out of this world. It's not rocket science. It's perhaps either a replica of what we are doing or even a subset of what we are doing locally, and even the kind of team that we are having. So these particular founders have been able to raise as much as, actually all of them were 8 figures. So I was in this room with 40 other founders. They're talking about 8 figures. I kept smiling, Nancy. For the entire 2 hours, I
What
kept
is
smiling.
eight figures in the millions? And these are not even Kenya
Of
shilling, it's in
pounds. No
pounds.
pounds. No, the Kenyan shilling. You don't talk about Kenyan shillings, please. So that's one thing I saw, resource disparity. And I'm not talking about money only, the network. So a founder in London or a founder even in San Francisco has a very powerful network that is able to support them. That's how OpenAI is what it is today. Because Elon said, okay, fine, I'm going to pump in an idea here, I'm going to pump in some money. And then some Altman came in and then they said, does it mean that then Elon Musk is not of average IQ compared to us? Anyway, that's just a funny rhetorical
Depends who
question.
you ask.
It's a very rhetorical question. So that's one of them, just resource disparity. I would also say data readiness. And again, I would point out to one of the startups that is in healthcare. They're specifically actually training cancer data, okay, just to be able to have precision medicine so that you can be able to, once you've taken, let's say, x-rays of where it's suspected that the kind of cancer you're suffering from through biopsy. You can be able to quickly tell that this is actually, say, bone marrow cancer or whatever other cancer. So he's been training these kind of cancer data sets and raised a lot of money already. This simply means that they already have necessary tools and resources to support them in data labeling so that they can be able to train the artificial intelligence models. So remember, AI can never learn without actually being directed or redirected. And that's why I kept saying it's actually not independent and creative as it stands today. Now we have gone into the era of agentic AI. Agents have become self-evolving. They've become adaptive. That's what we call adaptive learning. They would learn through what you've trained it historically. So that's the evolution of AI. And I would say data readiness and resource disparity is what is really a pain in Africa.
Yeah, and the ecosystem, right? I think it plays into the ecosystem. The way you're saying data
Absolutely.
readiness, how open some of these organizations are to AI and data. Because you might find a lot of organizations on the continent, they may not be ready to adopt AI or ready to adopt data as fast as probably some of these companies here. So I definitely get you. And in terms of even the ecosystem, beyond the funding, which is very crucial, because building AI, like the way you're talking about, you have engineers, and it's not just any engineers. So it's very highly sought after talent that you can't just get off the chip because you're competing for talent with the Microsofts of this world, the Google of this world, the Meta of this world. So it's not an easy thing, right? So, and funding goes into being able to give you the time and the resources to build your solution, and the ecosystem as well, being able to be in a room with those 40 founders, being able to get conversations with people, even mentoring, being able to see what's possible, something that sometimes when you're on the continent you're not able to, or if you have to, it's such a cost. Again, people for having to fly, because again, on the continent, the AI and data is not where it is as mature, rather, compared to other markets. Okay. I want us now to delve into one of my favorite things, and this is talking about the functional and practical bits AI and how we are seeing it being used in our everyday life. So apart from ChatGPT, which everybody uses, I want us to discuss about the other functions of AI and where you're seeing it or where general users are seeing it in their everyday.
Okay, that's amazing. I think the onset of general purpose tool, that's GPT, Chat GPT, was in November 2022. I believe that's when it was launched. And that is when now natural language processing was seen at large scale. It was now seen at scale. That is now large language models. And that has since evolved into seeing what can be an actual use case in every other day. So today, why agents have come or why we've evolved into agentic AI is because on every other day, Nancy, you'd want to plan your calendar for the entire week. You're a CEO and maybe you have a number of tools. You have Slack, you have Gmail, you have Google Drive. You want to consolidate all your resources or everything that you already have into one thing quite autonomously and seamlessly and fast. So that is now where agentic AI is coming. So I would give it one word, and that's what we call convenience. We are at a stage where artificial intelligence wants now to bring in the aspect of convenience. And MIT released a paper, a research paper, a few months ago that did point out to the fact that there is a tendency of many human beings, of many of us, to be able to be over rely on artificial intelligence, even say ChatGPT, for example. So that has really led to a reduction of a reduction in cognitive ability. So you cannot even independently think on your own and say, okay, fine. Nancy did ask me that other than, let's say, large language models, what's another practical way in which artificial intelligence is being used? So that is one of the hazards that's already being seen. But we are moving towards a world of convenience. Can you be able to plan your day from where you are at through to the end? Or is it actually working for you or not? I'd point out another use case that's maybe not exactly general purpose, but it's already being used in defense as we speak. Okay, fine. I think I don't want to mention specific countries, and I wouldn't say that is an issue we can ignore, because again, it is macroeconomics. It's directly influencing our day-to-day lives. And actually, my project was being sponsored by one of the leading defense companies in the United Kingdom, and that's why I said, okay, fine, maybe I ought to mention it. That's actually part of predictive modeling, what you call image detection and object detection. So there's a tool called Lavender that one of the countries that have been fighting in the Far East have been using, or Middle East or something, have been using. So this Lavender can be able to actually auto detect which houses belong to the enemies, and of course now direct the missiles and so on and so forth to be able to attack those people. So it's already being used in war. Okay, fine. Let's use a more practical and more nuanced example: risk-based modeling in Africa. Right now, for you to be able to price or underwrite, even in Africa, for agriculture, for example, you actually need to know what are the different costs that you used in be able to, for you to be able to say produce horticultural products. One of them would be fertilizer, of course, the different tools that you use to be able to do your plantation, and so on and so forth. So that in itself is also called risk-based modeling. So right now, artificial intelligence is already being used to be able to autonomously detect the different costs that are attributed to your farming or your business. And then on top of it, we have what we call crop disease detection. Of course, that's also an application of computer vision. So you can be able to use artificial intelligence libraries to be able to auto detect a certain crop disease. And then, of course, a pesticide that is used to treat one crop disease is not exactly as what is used in treating another crop disease. So that is already being used in agriculture. I would look at it in terms of now social media, social engineering, that is now ingrained. You can already see that AI has already been ingrained in how we consume information. A very good example is deepfake. Maybe this is a deepfake of Nancy and Dennis. Dennis is probably somewhere in Bali
Could be,
sipping a drink.
could be.
Exactly. But we are conversing and we've drawn an audience and they're listening to us. Maybe that is part of what you can be able to see. There is so much more that you cannot be able to see. And maybe a good example is how social engineering through artificial intelligence is being used by Netflix. And allow me to mention them. If your brand is taken down, please come to me. So the kind of content that they've been pushing lately has really been, let me use the word hazardous in quotes again. Netflix uses what we call recommendation engines. These recommendation engines are driven by artificial intelligence. Commonly used recommendation engines are what we call popularity based. Popularity based, it would mean that Nancy, who stays in central London, and many other persons of the same behavior would likely love to watch Madia. Okay, fine. So it will keep referring, or it will keep recommending Madia movies to those who are around that particular location. Okay, other than popularity based, we also have what we call content based or item based content. So it's based on the kind of content that that movie is churning, or perhaps it's based on the kind of person, or who is the item, or the person who is logging in. Is it your profile or my profile? So there are many instances that I can point out to what artificial, or where artificial intelligence is affecting us. A very quick one again is in education. Lecturers are struggling to really prove that this is AI work or this is human work. It's super impressive that you can finish your thesis in 24 hours, something that before it used to take a lot to be able to be finished. There's one big company that was mentioned 2 or 3 days ago that they had to refund a certain government a lot of money because of not ethically using artificial intelligence in again doing the work that they've been given. So without mentioning names, those are some of the practical use cases I would mention in terms of artificial intelligence. And maybe 2027 elections in Kenya, they would likely be driven by AI if the persons in government or in the opposition can be able to be intelligent enough to see how they can use it.
Okay, interesting. And probably something else I might add as well is the use of AI in the creativity industry. Because now we're seeing people with very limited budgets being able to put together a podcast because you can just put your image, put your script, and then, create a whole podcast, whether by yourself or with somebody else. We've also
That's
seen
very true.
people using AI to, kind of like pilot a movie or pilot a documentary, and even just map out how they'd like it to be even before you go to like actual production. So I've been loving the different use cases of AI. Sometimes I do wonder, is this AI or is this just, was this something that was being used before? Or is this AI or is this just system integration? Because right now, if you're using, for example, Teams, you're able to integrate some other tools like Canva. Nowadays, I
Sure.
use Canva, but I'm able to get notification on my Teams messages,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. Again, around convenience. So is that AI? Is that integration? So it's almost becoming so intertwined with our day-to-day lives, and also the technology is really improving. It becoming very interesting to kind of separate what's AI or what's kind of like normal. And even just seeing like the way you were mentioning about, oh, somebody can go into your calendar and see something like Calendly. You can be able to integrate multiple calendars. So you can integrate your personal calendar, your work calendar, your team's calendar, and then people are able to book the slots that are open, that sort of thing. And I know somebody will be like, oh, that's not AI, but also can that has some elements? I don't know. Is that true? Is that not true,
Mm-hmm.
Dennis? Is
Yes, it's
Calendly
it's
and Teams using AI?
definitely it's being backed by artificial intelligence, definitely. And maybe one other thing that I would point out is the fact that we are now moving into the era of digital twins. So a digital twin is a near perfect simulation of Nancy Masila. It's already being used in manufacturing and even in, yeah, actually mainly manufacturing. So what a digital twin is going to do, other than inspiring a world of convenience, is actually now going to start actually initiating us towards now, or other actually welcoming us towards the world of narrow artificial intelligence, where there is almost no need for you to work. Like, it can already, without you saying anything, your digital twin can already predict what you want. It can already read your emotions, your feelings. It can already talk to you. It can already, that's now through voice agents and so on and so forth. So that's another maybe world that we're moving in, that will really be key in determining the evolution of artificial intelligence in the long run. Yeah.
Amazing. That's a perfect segue into the next conversation I wanted us to tackle, which is around ethics. Ethics in AI, and also how scalable are some of these AI solutions while still, looking at it through the lens of, ethics, and also the impact of AI, and the various ways people are using it, or how we've seen it being used. Because as we know, governments government and also government agencies are not always able to move at the speed of technology. So you'd find there are no policies, there's no regulation to begin with. And you'll find government and government agencies all around the world trying to scramble and come up with policies or guidelines on how to use this new technology. But in terms of ethics, like the way you're talking about, you're creating a digital twin, the way we are talking about deepfakes and the way deepfakes are affecting people's lives, right? You can wake up and find an image of somebody who's supposedly you, but it's not you, being displayed somewhere, and you're like, that's not me. So, how do we get to a point where we're like, I'm not saying regulate this thing, but like the ethics of it all, you know?
Awesome. That's a good question. I would say ethos or ethics is actually grounded to the values of a human being. And it is the impact of artificial intelligence is really dependent on the creators and the co-creators and the developers and the policymakers, because they actually determine the ecosystem and the environment to which AI should thrive, work, or actually not thrive. And why I started there is because we already know we are in the advent of regulation of artificial intelligence. We have the global data, we have the general data regulation, GDPR. We also have the different laws driven by the federal commissions within the US. Okay, And then we have PEPDA, that's the Canadian equivalent. And then we also have the Kenya Data Act Protection 2019. We also have the Tanzanian one 2022. So where that is driving us, the conversation is that there has to be consequences towards the abuse of artificial intelligence, because again, ethos remains to be a personal human value. There are things that to you will be very comfortable doing them, that to me will not actually make any kind of sense. And now, where I'm drawing us towards, will draw us towards perhaps one or two principles of the GDPR, and one of them is actually transparency. Okay, fine. We said, and I'm proud to be a member of the OpenAI forum, but we already know that where we started from, where OpenAI started from, is a world of transparency. That there shall be no black box in how we're developing this particular model. But to a certain level of understanding to the key players, they notice that perhaps comparing OpenAI to another different, let me use the word model, in quotes, DeepSeek, for example, they are a little bit more transparent in how they're developing their model. They will tell you which data they used, where it came from, who was part of it, what was their mental state at that particular point in time. So transparency has been curtailed by the key players who actually want to make money from artificial intelligence. Again, you can be able to monetize a lot. Data monetization has become quite critical using artificial intelligence.
It's the
Let
new
me pick on
liquid
an
gold.
yes, the new
That is
legal,
a
and
new
it's
gold, right? And
that
we
is
are
the new
seeing this
god.
even in stock exchanges. People have
Exactly.
insights, and
Hmm.
they are able to sell. Think of Meta as well. They are selling
Hmm.
your data to companies so that they're able to market to you.
Hmm.
So data is the new
Exactly.
gold.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. Let's talk about data minimization. Data minimization is one of the principles, core principles of GDPR, that data should, the purpose, sorry, purpose limitation. That a purpose limitation, let me not go to minimization first, but limitation. It should be limited to the purpose of which you want to use this data. Meta collects a lot of data, perhaps maybe 100 data points per person, your date of birth, your location, your spouse, your preferences, the, where you've traveled before, where you've not traveled, and so on and so forth. So it went beyond that, and they sold this data to Cambridge Analytica. And again, this remains to me. Let me be sued as a person, not as Jasiri Network or Nancy Masila.
Allegedly.
So
I don't have lawyer money, Dennis. Allegedly.
don't worry, I'm here. So allegedly. So and another these are actually they were fined up to $1 billion because they sold data to Cambridge Analytica, and it was actually extrapolated. This kind of data for 70,000 key voters within America was extrapolated, and that's how the voting pattern was determined and influenced in America. That simply means they actually infringed the core principle of purpose limitation. They went beyond the purpose to which they collect this particular data. And there are many, many more cases that can be able to cite even locally. You've seen banks locally, perhaps there's credit scoring data, data around how they can determine your credit worthiness. And then this data has been leaked or it's out here, and perhaps for the wrong purpose because you want to also make money from it, or you have another sinister move. And then now we have data minimization, and that would simply mean what happens in the event that, say, Dennis is normal and I have a following of, say, 10,000 people within LinkedIn. What actually happens to this particular data? Will it actually be archived, or will it actually still be used to train LinkedIn models as we speak today? Your data is already being used to train, especially recommendation engines within LinkedIn. Even Netflix, for example, are you going to delete those profiles of people who have died, for example? So again, that's a very intimate conversation when it comes to the ethical use of artificial intelligence. And there are many, many more cases that you can be able to cite that are quite hazardous. Many are already taking place that you do not know. I might be having a clue, but again, I just have but a clue. And there are people who are actually driving this conversation because I understand where it's coming from. Perhaps the co-founder of Oracle has an idea when he says that let's not curtail artificial intelligence, because at that point, if we curtail technology, that's now the advent of the Antichrist. Okay, fine. That is more philosophical and religious. But again, he's simply pointing towards people who have a clear idea of the potential of artificial intelligence in terms of it being hazardous. So I think ethics will be drawn towards integrity, towards your value, and what really drives you to the use of artificial intelligence or the misuse of artificial intelligence. I'd point one last example. There's a top engineer who used to work for XAI, that is Musk. So this top engineer copied the entire, when he was exiting, he sold 7 million worth of his stocks, and then he copied the entire code base. It's okay, it's an active case in court, and then replicated this to another company, pasted this in another company. That is a question of ethos, ethics. What more can you do using this data? I can use a very practical example again. I've worked for a healthcare company handling massive petabytes of data. So I could be able to see very sensitive information. Healthcare data is categorized under sensitive information. Both healthcare and sensitive and financial data are both sensitive information. So what if I was not a human being of ethos, and I would use this data against you, or use this data against any other person, given that I have the privilege of actually seeing this particular information? But again, there are caveats that have been put to be able to guard against misuse of artificial intelligence, because it routes from misuse of data. Over to you,
Wow.
Nancy.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, and that's a great breakdown, right? And I love how you've cited all these different examples. It seems then everybody kind of like is trying their best to manage this new technology because it's not going anywhere, right? And so, like you mentioned, people have different ethos, people have different trust levels, and for people out there, especially people, parents who have young kids, and young kids was now sort of using this new technology, as all these other different players are figuring out the big picture, how are we going to, or what can we tell, you know, parents, people with young kids, even myself, like I have younger siblings, how do we help younger people navigate this new space? Because me and you are millennials. We were not born into like AI or born into like, this new technology, but now you're finding people who are born and this is their reality. This is what they know, right? And you're younger, you get affected more. You can talk about GDPR, but like that's 9-year-old, 10-year-old, so how are we also protecting the younger audiences as
Awesome. I love.
as friends of these young people and as a society?
Awesome. I think I love how you started, and I would point out to the fact that AI is now part and parcel of us. There's really no reason to be scared. There's more reason to be excited than to be scared. And I would say that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, whereby now artificial intelligence and technology would be driving economic revolution. And that's why there's a conversation of universal basic income and world coin, and how it came to Kenya and so on and so forth. But I won't go there today. So it's important to notice, or to actually be cognizant of the fact that AI is super creative. It is super creative so far. Nano Banana and many other tools that we can be able to cite, including Dromas. Actually, it's actually a very creative and intelligent tool. So for these particular children, and you've mentioned that we are actually millennials and there are Gen Zs in between.
And there's
So can we
alpha.
be able,
There's
and
alpha,
there's Gen
that
Alpha
new ones being born every day.
every other day. So the question would be, are we actually part and parcel of the use of artificial intelligence creatively or not? So these particular children, they need to be nurtured into knowing how they can be able to use, say, TikTok creatively, to be able to build content around AI and around many other information that is very important. But again, the key thing is that we are still built on values, and I won't go away from values again. How we bring up these particular children, the Gen Alphas, Gen Zs. I'm sorry, part of our audience, they're Gen Zs. I'm sorry for calling you
We love
children.
Gen Zs.
Exactly. So part of it is actually making sure that they fit into the ecosystem. They are part and parcel of what's happening. Because again, when you look at supervised learning, whereby you are going to label your target variable and many other variables, or what you call, let me just say your data set, okay? Fine. They are going to use, say, data from children. Okay, fine. Data points from children, including images, their different vitals from them, every other data point that you can talk about from children. So can they be made to appreciate the value of artificial intelligence from a very young age? And I would say today, perhaps I appreciate why I really went through calculus 1, calculus 2, probability 1, probability 2 to 3,
Oh, don't
linear
take us back
algebra,
there. Oh
up
my.
to up to the very end.
Yeah.
it it really made me sure that I'm grounded, and that's why we have mentorship programs to really support children from the onset. But again, a parent has to be really keen on the kind of content that children are actually consuming, because again, AI has also penetrated into the other world where now we have blue movies that are out here. Some of them are already AI generated. So what really happens in that particular sense? It simply means that we need to set up the proper important guardrails to protect our children and to be able to control the misuse, disuse, and use of artificial intelligence.
Wow. True. True.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we can't outsource the problem.
We cannot assess
We can't
exactly.
outsource. We
That's a
can't
good one.
outsource it to the policymakers. We have
We
to
cannot.
do the
We have to be part
parenting.
and
You
parcel.
know, you
Mhm,
can't escape that. Okay.
mhm.
Well, as we kind of wind up the conversation before we go into our quick fire session, I wanted us to talk briefly about the future of AI. And with this new technology, with everything that's coming up, and people who are looking to join the Dennises in the future, what would be a great entry point into AI? Because I don't know whether they've started teaching AI in high school, for example. But like, if somebody says, "Oh, I want to be the next Dennis. I want to be the next Sam Altman," where should they start? In terms of high school, in terms of uni, in terms of work experience, to get to where they need to be. Help us map
Okay.
this out for
Okay.
them. Or
That's
somebody who's keen on pivoting, for example.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. I'll maybe cite UNESCO. According to UNESCO, less than 1% of AI researchers are based in Africa. Let me look at it geographically first. That's number one. So that simply means that artificial intelligence, we are talent poor in AI. Africa is talent poor in AI. It could be
But
because of
then it's
resources.
it's Kenya who was part of training models.
Okay, I'm going there. I'm going there.
Okay.
Remember, these models actually need compute resources, GPUs, TPUs, and so on and so forth. They need compute resources. Again, this is a conversation of are there is there infrastructure to be able to support this? No, there's not. Is there sufficient infrastructure? And I'm glad there are already key players that are already driving that conversation towards what kind of infrastructure we can set up. Do we have the people? Because technology revolves around people and infrastructure. Okay, fine. So, other than then thinking about whether we will need actual researchers like, say, me, who have practically done mathematics as the foundation, and then moved on to uh, use linear algebra for, say, matrix factorization in recommendation engines, and then now moved again to use maybe linear algebra and use say linear regression and use that to be able to develop more complex models and solve false problems in false positive, false negative, and so on and so forth. So other than that, can we be able to say, okay, fine, we are going to make it easy, a little bit light for a non-technical learner to be able to pivot, to be able to easily learn using more practical resources locally and internationally. So can we be able to actually localize our models? That includes linguistics. Can we be able to teach AI in Kikuyu, AI in Luya, AI in Kamba, AI in Yoruba, and so on and so forth? That would simply means that there's the aspect of nuance, there's the aspect of semantics. Is it actually relatable to Nairobi? Is it actually relatable to South Africa or Johannesburg, and so on and so forth? So that would simply mean that that is now where we bring some technical jargons in artificial intelligence like transfer learning, meta learning, whereby we have pre-trained models. And it would simply mean that through no-code artificial intelligence like Dromos, Nancy can be able to build her own agent within 10 minutes. And that's already happening. Using, again, like I've mentioned, we have tools like Dromos. OpenAI released its agentic AI builder less than 2 days ago. And it also released Pulse. So can you, an untechnical user, quickly build an agent? Yes. So that simply means, can we be able to create an ecosystem that allows the non-technical users or builders to be able to use and build an idea. So remember, it routes from an idea. What idea do you have in mind, and how do you want to use AI as a coach to build your idea? So I would say we still need researchers, those who are technical, those who will say, fine, I still need a background in mathematics. And then I'll build upon that to be able to become a computer scientist, learn one or two programming languages, and then on top of that, learn one or two environments, or let me say IDEs, integrated environments, that I can use to deploy my models into production. And then now beyond that, there will be the key players, because you also need stakeholder buy-in. Let's say you're working for an enterprise, you need stakeholder buy-in, meaning you also need to learn soft skills. We also need what we call, for example, a data steward who looks at the question of quality of data and then can be able to translate technical language to non-technical language to the board of management. So there are many, many myriad opportunities that we can be able to talk about. But there are many, again, very many verticals that you can look at it. Today, Nancy, for you to become a great AI strategist, you don't necessarily need to, be a developer or be able to code, because there's no code artificial intelligence and so on. There are many, many examples I can cite, but maybe I'd stop at that.
Okay, fantastic. So I guess that means you need to differentiate whether you want to be the technical, you want to get into the
Or
technical bit of AI, or you want to get into the non-technical. So that's great news for people who may not be too keen about the maths and the linear regression and the modeling, but they're like they love AI and they love the direction that it's going. Okay, great. So if you're technical, do the maths, do the actuarial, do the computer science, do the engineering. For non-technical, I think it's more of interest and also just interacting with the AI as much as possible, and figuring out sort of like how to get there. That has been a fantastic conversation, Dennis. I love talking about AI and the practical elements of it, because it's, again, like we said during this live, it's become part and parcel of our daily lives. But before we let you go and enjoy the amazing Kitale, we have another round of questions towards the end. The first question is around, what's the best advice you've ever received that still guides you today?
stay hungry, stay humble, stay foolish. Stay hungry, stay humble, stay foolish. You always have hunger for knowledge, hunger for information. Stay foolish. Pretend you really don't know. Be teachable. Be teachable as much as possible. Opportunities open up for you. And again, stay humble. If you're building, we've been building Domos in the past 9 months. We've had ups and downs, but we've always stayed humble. We've approached very many big people. We've worked with very big players, but when it comes to the now the practicals of pushing it into the industry, we'll need to keep less. So again, stay humble. That's the much I would say for today. It's kept pushing me today, and I really hope to be a great man and key player in this particular industry.
Amazing, amazing. Second question. And this question I ask everybody that comes on the live session. And the question is, a book, podcast, or resource that has kind of been part and parcel of your journey and that you'd recommend to anybody as well that wants to kind of follow in your footsteps.
Awesome, that's a good question. I'm an enthusiast of one researcher called Pedro Domingos. So Pedro Domingos is a builder in artificial intelligence. He's also a teacher. So he authored a book called Master Algorithm rather, and it talks about behavior. That actually behavior is the master algorithm. Everything that we do is habitual. Even artificial intelligence is about pattern recognition. I look at Nancy, I'll actually map out her patterns, her behavior historically, and then predict into the future and build a world of convenience for her and help her avoid risks, for example, or actually mitigate these risks. So I would say the master algorithm, look it up. I think that is one of the books that I was reading in my early life in AI. That was I was given by my good friend and mentor at that time. and yeah, it's kept me going. So that's Pedro Domingo's Master Algorithm. Yep, the Master Algorithm. That's a very nice book, and it's easy to read as well. It's a big one, but it's well spaced and with big words and sentences. You can finish it in a week or so.
Okay. Another question. If you are not in AI and data, what career path do you think you'd be on? No.
Definitely not forex. Let us start from there. Definitely.
Okay, so not forex. What would it be then?
Okay, I just wanted to throw that in. So I
But you know,
would.
with forex, it depends. Because
Oh,
when you look at your, your
I
your
know.
banks, when you look at your investment banking, your remittance,
Yes,
all of them
yes.
they deal with
Stocks.
forex. Well, they call
You
it treasury, so they don't use the forex word. But I mean,
okay, fine. Trading. Let me say trading. I mean, you can invest in stocks and you can buy and sell without necessarily trading. I think I'm not an enthusiast of trading, maybe. And again, it depends on the context and the ethics around it and who does it and where. Again, that's a very good way to look at it. But if I was not in this particular field of artificial intelligence, that's a very tricky but also good question. I would still be a businessman because part of the business that I also do on the side, it's in real estate as well. I think I would really be a massive businessman. I can't really say that I would be in politics per se. I wouldn't be there, but I would be a very serious businessman in town and globally. Maybe real estate majorly, or if not, if things are really bad, I would go and preach because it has a lot of money too.
you're the first person I've had saying they'd want to go and preach. But you know what? If you're a startup founder, you're no different from a preacher because you're preaching
Is it?
The good Lord's
But I
name,
don't.
the Lord's message.
But some people are selling snake oil. We don't sell snake oil. We've built an actual product. We've taken time. We've hired a team. We've trained a team. We've failed.
You
We
have
failed fast.
results. You have
Yes,
battle
yes,
scars.
yes. We don't
And
sell. We are
you've
not
also
commanders.
invested in the knowledge and the resources as
Exactly.
well. So you're not
That's
an
very true.
overnight success or overnight or briefcase
Yes.
businesses, for lack of a better
Yes,
word.
and we are not yet there. Actually, we are not yet there. We've just started even our fundraising, so we are not commanders. We are actual builders.
Okay, great. Another question. Which African country do you think will surprise the world with its AI adoption, whether now or in the next coming years? Where are you seeing, apart from Kenya? Because I think there's been a bit of noise of Kenya and training AI models, which you didn't mention. You didn't go into details. I think
Mm,
you were supposed to mention
mm,
something, but yeah.
mm. I think I would look at Nigeria, and why I would look at Nigeria because the numbers matter as well. It's the US is where it is, even in terms of AI, and China because of the numbers, the population and the numbers and the human resource as well. They have talent that's going to be very useful in the advancement of artificial intelligence, and that is going to be very critical. And again, in the development of localized models or linguistic models, even locally, that is NLP, natural language processing, and so on and so forth. That's already happening in the country, and many other companies that are already setting up infrastructure. I believe that Kenya would be going hand in hand with Nigeria, but Nigeria is likely going to be the leader. For one reason or the other, South Africa has the infrastructure, some infrastructure to a certain level, because they're really key players there, like Strive, already setting up infrastructure for AI deployment and building, both on cloud and locally, and building data centers again to support the same. So I would say Nigeria is a man or woman to watch, if I might call it that way. And that is so because they have the human resource and equally there's a lot of infrastructure. And then they also have the curiosity. I've worked with a number of them. They have the curiosity, they're movers. Now look at they already maybe I'm not sure if we have some unicorns in Africa, maybe one or two,
We
but
do, and
again,
a lot of them come from Nigeria. I'll say
exactly.
80%,
Okay, fine.
if not all.
Exactly. Exactly. So Nigeria is still going to be a leader, and
Yeah,
mainly it's because of the human resource.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, the human resource funding as well, they have some of the biggest diaspora out there, and
Yep.
then they also have a lot of funding coming from the diaspora. So Again, I
Still the
think
people.
yeah, yeah,
Still the
still
people.
the
Still
people,
the
a
people.
hundred
It's still
percent,
the people.
100%,
It's still the
still
people.
the
I
people.
think in Kenya sometimes these conversations. I'm sorry, there's a pet here that's really giving me a problem. I would say that if at the point whereby we can let AI never be a political conversations, because economics of AI can really transform Kenya. It can really create a number of jobs, thousands of jobs actually. If we let the economics of AI be driven by value creation, pure value creation and problem solving, then Kenya is going to be a key player as well. Because again, there's a lot of intellectual resource in the East, and we can be able to use this to really, again, move as far and as fast as possible.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think that kind of brings us to the end. There's a one question that just came up in our chat, and the question is from Roger. Roger's asking, what practical courses would you recommend? I'm assuming for AI, and he said for millennials, I guess people who are kind of like still getting into AI.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. I mean, buy a Coursera account and then be a continuous learner. If you're not a continuous learner with the AI, it will always be difficult. You will always never like it. You'll try and then you try it today, tomorrow there's a new concept. You will actually run away. So I think Coursera is pretty good for a start. Even YouTube, it has so thousands of courses. And if not, then please reach out to me and then I can dedicate a few hours and yeah, give me a few coins. But otherwise, you can start off from Coursera. That's a
Yeah.
very simple. Yeah, I wouldn't say Udemy because again, it's not well regulated and tested and tried. Sometimes it has some issues that are not really quite related. But there are many. There are myriad. There are many resources today. Even TikTok, they're creators. But for those, you need to also to know. You need to be an expert so that you can differentiate what's actual content and what's actually not accurate and actual content.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of universities as well that offer a lot of free courses. Some of them do put up their information on YouTube, or you can just check out their website. I know Harvard has a lot of free content on AI. Google has a lot of like free content as well on AI. So there's a lot of information out there. You just need to know which places to go and find it. Hopefully, make sure you're finding it in the right places. Verified sources, as
That's true.
Dennis has mentioned.
Yeah, and
And
maybe Nancy, if I may mention as well, part of our release is an agentic data kit. So it's just an agentic tool or environment that builders, those who are a little bit, say, more technical developers, I think you can share with the audience if you don't mind. You can share with them our community waitlist. They can be able to join that community, so they can join as actual users in the businesses, or they can actually join as developers, as builders. They can build their own agents in micro minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. Through that, they can also learn and really be at the same pace with development of AI in agentic in the world of building agents. Yeah. So I would say we also have resources to be able to support the community in building and developing. We have our own SDK and ADK as well.
yeah, amazing.
Yep.
Amazing, Dennis.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you to everybody that's listening. Thank you for sharing your insights, Dennis. This has been such a valuable conversation, right? Around AI, data, and my favorite bits were on the functional and practical features and use cases for AI. For everybody that's watching, I'd love to continue this conversation. We are always very active on LinkedIn. Put the questions there. Dennis will try and get you to answer a few of them. You can follow Dennis on LinkedIn. You can follow myself on LinkedIn. You can follow Prescott Data on LinkedIn. Jasiri Network as well on LinkedIn, and reach out. We'll be sharing a few of the resources, as well as Dennis just did launch with Prescott Data. They launched Dromos, and they have a few exciting things in the work, as well as a wait list, which will get people as well to get in the comment section. But other than that, that's me. Dennis, is there any last words I'd like to share?
I would say remain unique, remain curious, and remain teachable. That's the most you can do. One thing I learned when I was in the UK, and one thing I carry with myself is that you actually need a community. You need friends, You need people to be with you, to support you, and you need also proper networks. So also invest in your social capital. Remain curious, remain humble, but also invest in your social capital. Let's build a big community of artificial intelligence, and let's be the co-creators of what artificial intelligence would look like in the next 10 years. Let it not be that narrow AI is going to be a conversation or a reserved conversation for the East or the West. Let's be part and parcel. We are still in the advent of AGI. What are we going to be co-creators of AGI? Let us not just be the people who, or let it not be that we're just being used as pawns
Or
in
as
the larger chess game,
consumers. Somebody
as
saying Africa
consumers
is we are consumers and not creators. And I was like,
and not
yeah,
creators.
that's true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We can't
yeah, yeah.
always be just, be counted as consumers. We have to actually get in the ring and be part of this these conversations. And yeah,
Exactly.
amazing.
And
Thank you,
that's
Dennis. And thank you to our amazing listeners, our audience. Any question, you feel free to put it in the comment section. We'll try and as much as possible to answer them. Until next time, thank you.
bye bye.
Bye.